Hello and welcome to the Dublin Arsenal preview show. I'm your host, Jonathan Giles. On the preview show this week, I'm joined by regular gooner Eamonn Donnelly and by Irish Seagulls Brighton fan Pete Baker to look ahead to Arsenal's Premier League clash at the Amex Stadium this coming Saturday evening live on Sky Sports Premier League at 5:30. And remember, you can watch this vital Premier League match live in the Dublin Arsenal supporters bar, the River Bar. So sit back and enjoy the show. A shout out to our friends at Pepsi, Thirsty for More, and also just like to wish everyone on the Dublin Arsenal preview show a happy new year, and I hope 2025 is a happy and healthy one to all. As I said in my intro, I'm joined by, first of all, Eamon Donnelly. How are you, pal?
Evening, Jonathan. Evening, Pete. Always borrow money from a pessimist. He won't expect to get it back. I started out with nothing. I still have most of it. How are you doing? We're all good. Yeah, all good.
I'm also joined by Irish Seagulls Brighton fan. He was on way back in August, so the season really, we were only about 3 or 4 games in at that stage. Pete Baker, welcome back, pal. How are you keeping?
Oh, good. Good to be back. Good to be back on the show.
It's great to have you on, Pete. I know Pete's our biggest listener as well. These away fans, we must be doing something right. Thanks to everyone who listens to us on Spotify and the Dublin Arsenal YouTube channel and who subscribes.
I just wanted, no, I don't think I was on the show with you, Pete, the last time. Don't think so.
I think you were, yeah.
No, you weren't.
No, I'll tell you, because do you know where I was?
I know it was Carl Ozzy Osbourne was on. Sorry.
Do you know where I was? I was in Brighton at the at the annual Mod Festival. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. That goes on. We played you on the 31st of August.
Yeah.
And the weekend before that was a bank holiday in England, and that's when they always have the Mod Festival in Brighton. One of my favourite places in the world, Brighton. You know. Yeah.
That's an amazing place.
Amazing place. Yeah.
Particularly the Amex Stadium as well, where Arsenal will travel to on Saturday evening, 5:30 kickoff. In terms of Brighton's league position, played 19, won 6, drew 9, lost 4 so far, scored 29, conceded 28, 27 points and in 10th position. Top scorers to date for Brighton, Danny Welbeck is top scorer with 6 goals, the ex-Gunner himself. Joe Pedro with 4, Kaoru Mitoma with 3, and Simon Adingra and Curtis Baliba with 2 goals each. Few injury worries as well for Brighton, like ourselves. Welbeck, Ferguson, Milner, Estepan, Weaver, Hinchelwood and Kadioglu. And for ourselves, White, Saka, of course, will be out now with that hamstring till at least March. Kai Havertz, bit of a flu there, I think, over the last few days. Didn't play last night. Raheem Sterling, Tomiyasu, please get fit. Tomiyasu really wants you back. And Urian Timber, who sadly, he's not injured, but he's just suspended due to picking up another yellow there. Too many yellows, sadly. In terms of our previous meeting, it was back in August, the end of August, 31st of the 8th. I was at that one. 1-1. The Rice sending off early in the second half killed that game pretty much. Havertz left lob over for Brogan. I was right behind it, what a finish. And then Joe Pedro got the equaliser for Brighton. In terms of that game, Pete, what did you make of that game yourself, briefly? Did you think the red card was harsh, wasn't it?
It was harsh, but I kind of sat there and I've mulled it over, and at the time I was like, that's really harsh.
Yeah.
And then I kind of said, okay, like they've kicked in the new rules, and at the beginning of the season, the refs are always going to be really, like, they're going to be sticklers for it. They're never going to give anything away. So I kind of said, okay, 2 yellows. I don't like this new rule of it, kicking the ball away as an automatic yellow.
Yeah.
I think you have to look at the intent behind it. I think hoofing the ball into Rosie is different from tapping it out of touch.
Yeah.
But the rule was the rules, and kind of said, okay, look, fair enough. And now I kind of look at it, and the amount of times I see it now with no bookings coming in. So now I'm like, well, that's just wrong. If you're going to put that rule in, stick with the rules. Anyone who kicks the ball away even the slightest, gets a yellow. And I know João Pedro did it, just before.
Yeah, that's right.
That should have been a yellow, wasn't given. So I could see why everyone was riled up.
Yeah.
But, VAR can't look at yellows, so the ref doesn't decide to do anything about it.
Yeah.
What can you do?
Yeah, I know, Eamon, you said on the review show that time he done it. It was silly from Declan Rice, wasn't it? Being a pro,
Well, no. What I said at the time was that it was instinctive as a professional footballer to gain an advantage to do that, and he fell foul of this, as Pete rightly says, this new edict which existed at the start of the season. The only other player I've seen pick up a yellow was Trossard. So we've had 2 red cards. I think I've seen one more yellow card. They don't bother with it anymore. But I mean, Peter's right. If there was a silliness from Declan's point of view, it was that if you were told at the start of the season in your dressing room, listen, they're going to be very fussy about a particular thing, you can be guaranteed with the circus that is Premier League refereeing, and because they need to keep themselves centre stage every week, and they have their buddy Mike Dean in the studio. Nah, right decision for me, mate. Especially in this type of game, you couldn't give a penalty in this type of game, mate. Mate, and you, mate, he's a bottle of fun, and all this type of stuff. To keep the referees relevant, because it's only in England that they're superstars, not in any other country. They had to go out with this new edict. So Declan was silly from that point of view, because I'm sure. I mean, I played, as you know, football for many, many years, but I also played Gaelic football, and which gets a lot of rule changes. Yeah. And you're told at the start of every season, listen, if you don't have your gum shield in, it's an automatic yellow card. Do you know what I mean? So why would you take out your gum shield? And it's a bit like that with Declan. Listen, they're going to clamp down on kicking the ball away, and here we are 3 games into the season and he kicks the ball away. But it's a nonsense. The one thing that you've got to weigh it up against, and I'll finish on this, you can now clump somebody from behind or whack them across the jaw. That's okay, but if you kick the ball away, the amount of fellas who are getting hurt this year from bad tackles that go unpunished has exponentially increased. Yeah. What do you reckon, Pete? I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think there seemed like, I mean, João Pedro got away with it because he didn't touch a man, but there's a lot of elbows flying around lately.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, I know they call it the professional foul. It's probably the one thing that I hate most about football is that it's a yellow card. You could be running away and you can grab someone by the collar, pull him back, and it's a yellow card, and you just get, for me, it's kind of like kicking, like Declan Rice's tap away is not the same as reefing someone by the collar to the point where they actually fall backwards. It's.
But I mean, Pete, bringing you back to that moment just briefly as well. Joel Veltman was the player, I think it was. The way he struck that, he probably deserved a card in itself for the way he got caught. Declan Rice as well, didn't he? Veltman was kind of winding up, I think, ours the players that day as well, wasn't he? But again, it's just the way you ruffle, I suppose, teams up, yeah.
I look at that, and this is the other side where I go, where Declan Rice was silly, because I think if he doesn't kick the ball away, Veltman's going to kick him. Yeah. And then that's even worse. The problem is, he could possibly get a red for that, because it's intentional.
Yeah.
But the problem is because Declan Rice has kicked the ball away as the first incident, Veltman's kick means nothing.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, he wouldn't have kicked you because you kicked the ball away.
Absolutely.
That's how the ref will look. But irrelevant of how we look back at all the replays, that's how the ref was going to see it.
Yeah.
Well, he went for a free kick. Now, the other side, as everyone said, that the ball was moving, which I agree.
I think what was going to happen was
up to the referee to stop the game and say, no, take it again. Ball was moving.
I think
Declan Rice to say, "Oh, the ball's moving, so I'll kick it out of the way." And I think that's the silliness from Declan Rice was,
Pete,
"Oh,
I
the ball's
think
moving. I'll move it out of the way so you can't kick it."
it's a classic case. I think what was happening there was the defender was going to kick it at Declan Rice. The way you've seen it thousands of times to try and say, "Ref, he's obstructing me," you know.
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
And Declan Rice kicked the ball away, so there was no ball to kick. You know.
Well, Veltman, up until that point, especially in the second half, he was really getting under his skin.
he was. Yeah,
You could see, and Veltman picked up on it. And I think when you watch Veltman's games, once he knows he's got under someone's skin,
he keep
he'll
at you.
niggle at you, and he'll. But that's his game. He's like, if I've got on your skin, do you know what? I'm going to push and push and push. And if you're going to keep biting, you're the one who's going to get sent off, not me.
Yeah.
And then Veltman's got sent off for trying to do that as well, because he's pushed too hard.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
you know, that's his game, you know?
I thought as well, after that red card, it was kind of a bit of a damn squid for ourselves, you know. But one player that day that did stand out, the lad you have in midfield, Pete, Curtis Baliba. He looks down to be some player, doesn't he? Big stocky lad.
Big stocky lad. I was watching the game there. The last game, some of the tackles he was putting in, it's just unreal. Like the ball's behind him, the player's behind him, and he's spun around, twisted his leg around, somehow managed to get the ball. And half time, I'm sitting there going, "Why are you doing that? You're going to get sent off."
Sent off, yeah.
The amount of time, and see him running behind players and nip the ball off him, like he's a deft touch, and he's great at breaking up that midfield play.
Yeah.
But Pete, you find all these guys in Brighton like Casido and Basuma and now that lad. You're pulling out your Discovery Factory pulls out these gems in the middle of the pitch who are very athletic around the pitch. And the best thing that happened to you that day was Milner got injured, because we were absolutely torturing your midfield that day. And then because Milner couldn't run, you know, he does different things, Milner. And then that whole dynamic of those two, the very athletic lads in the middle of the pitch, changed the dynamic that day, you know.
Did actually, yeah. I mean, yeah, Milner going after it, yeah, brought a bit of new energy into the midfield, yeah, 100%. That's just been one of the meetings between ourselves, and that was a 1-1 draw, of course. Our previous meetings at the Amex, going back to last April, where we won 3-0. Trossard scored that little dink over Steele, I think it was, in goal. Our previous meetings, and after that was the 31st of the 12th, 22, 4-2 we won in that game. It was notable that Evan Ferguson got his first Premier League goal in that game, shoving aside Saliba of all people as well to score that goal. But Martinelli ran down the other end of the pitch and put it one through Robert Sanchez's legs. That was the standout moment. And then back in 2021, it was a 0-0 draw at Brighton in that game. It's never easy going to the Amex, that's for sure, because the Brighton fans really do make it a good atmosphere, you know, and hostile. In our last three fixtures, Pete, 2-2 draw away at Villa, at Ingra and Lamptey. Thought Lamptey in the last few games has really impressed me, you know, kind of getting back to my old self again. 0-0 against Brighton at home, and West Ham was a 1-1 away draw. What have you made of your December fixtures, being such a hectic month as it always is, Pete? Were you happy with the results that you got out December?
No, I'm not happy with the way the results went. I think the Villa game in the first half, we were really positive, and we were pushing and pushing and pushing. In the second half, we just seemed to come off the pedal, and I found probably that most of the December fixtures, we seem to have one half where we do really well. In the second half, we're non-existent. Now, I think the previous two games before that was the first half. It was kind of like, what is going on? And then the second half, we picked up. The game there against Aston Villa, once he made the triple substitutions, he brought Matoma on, Ruta, and don't know, but once Matoma came on, the game changed.
Swung,
Matoma
yeah.
completely changed the game over. And when Matt O'Reilly came on, they kind of brought that different dynamic down the middle. And so the last kind of 20 minutes of that game, we kind of got back into control. We kind of pushed and pushed and pushed. And it was a bit, hopefully we could have pulled the winner, but it was just too late. And I think that's been the story of our December. I think we've left things too late to try and get a result. Not always fully agreeing on some of the players coming in the starting 11. I think Yari, he's really good.
Yeah, he is actually.
He's also really immature. Like, I've seen some of the yellows he gets, and it's like, that's just immaturity. That's just, he doesn't. And I think Matt O'Reilly would be better suited starting partner to go alongside Belieber. I think because Matt O'Reilly's slightly more attacking, but can come back. And I think it just gives you a better dynamic.
Yeah.
And Matt O'Reilly, it's Scottish Premier League, but I think he's got a better experience than Yari has at playing at kind of Premier League level. I think he's a better understanding of it. But yeah, it's been not the December I wanted. Especially coming off the Man City win, I was like, yeah, here we go, come into December. I thought we had some relatively easy fixtures.
Yeah, really loved them. Yeah.
But I think that's been our problem. We keep drawing games. It's 9 draws, Yeah.
It's a lot of draws in the season, yeah. Eamonn, have you been impressed? Another new upcoming manager, Fabian Horsler for Brighton. He seems to get managers like he's fine players as well. I don't know where they come from, but they do seem to hit the ground running. Have you been impressed with Brighton this season to date, Eamonn?
Well, if you take a step back, and I'm sure Pete won't mind me saying this, you've got to look at the size of Brighton as a club.
Yeah,
Brighton are like Brentford in that they were always a second or third tier club. And under Alan Mullery, I remember it well because I was born in 1965. During Liam Brady's pomp as an Arsenal player, they came up in 79. And they stayed in the division for 4 seasons. In fact, they got relegated the season they got to the FA Cup final when they should have beaten Man United. In fact, one of their fanzines was named "And Smith Must Score" because he missed an open goal to win the game in the last minute. And they went down that year. And then at that time, I've been to the Brighton Museum in the city. And I didn't realise, because you wouldn't think of the south of England town or city as it is, that per capita Brighton was the most impoverished town at that time in England. It's in the museum. I couldn't believe it. So you're talking about 1982, 1983.
Jeez,
so the club nearly went to the wall. And Liam Brady, when he was manager, was part of saving that club and attracting. Liam still lives in. I don't know whether you know this. Liam still lives in Hove, since his days as manager of Brighton, and he speaks very, very fondly of Brighton. And Brighton and the Arsenal had a mad kind of relationship, a very healthy relationship, because when Liam went back to the Arsenal as kind of head of the youth development, Brighton, when they were struggling, got a lot of Arsenal players who were on the books. I can think of Mark Flats and all these fellas.
Yeah, Mark Flats.
Graham Barrett, all these guys, because of the Liam connection, they signed a lot, and that's when they were in the lower division. So to be where Brighton are now, when less than 30 years ago, they nearly went to the wall, and for the size of the club, that was never in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, a top flight club. It's nothing short of phenomenal, and they've got it really right. I really admire them. Not only do they play good football, they've got their scouting right. They've got their managers generally right. Although his big mistake was he tried to tackle Martin Keown. That's going to come back to bite him. Martin will be waiting in a dark car park somewhere when Martin gets bored from doing TV punditry, he'll be on the blacklist, right? But I think the manager has done quite well. Hurstler, I think he's done quite well. He's a spiky type of character. I think you need to be.
You do. Yeah.
But Brighton's research department, their scouting network, the stadium they have. I hope they stay in the division for a long, long time because they're a credit. And I also have a bit of a soft spot. There was a lad in our school in Finglas, a fella called Gary Howlett, and he played in that FA Cup final for Brighton. And we had another lad in 1983, and we had another lad played in the late 70s, Jerry Ryan, and he also played in that cup final. Jerry Ryan at Bohemians, let me tell you, Pete, like before he went to England, he was our George Best. He was that good. He was ridiculously good. So a lot of time for Brighton, a lot of respect for them. And Pete is right, they draw too many games this season. In fact, their home form has been patchy. You know, they've won 3, drawn 5 at home. You know, only lost 1, but you'd expect Brighton to get more home points than that. And I think that's been their Achilles heel. But they're well placed in the division, and they're in good shape. And it's a city I love. It's an area I love because of my mod connection, and my all things Quadrophenia and the football. In fact, it's one of the few grounds I haven't been to because you cannot get a ticket for love nor money. When the Arsenal play away at Brighton, everybody wants to go to Brighton away. It's just simple as, you know. Yeah.
I don't want to throw you a few questions out, Pete, since we have you. First of all, with the January transfer window coming up now, literally into January, I suppose now, 2 days in, do you think Brighton will sign in January, do you think, to bolster their team?
Well, we signed him before January, but he's just joined. It's Diego Gomez from Inter Miami.
Oh, right.
Another central midfielder, so I don't know where he's going to fit in. We might just go play 8 in the middle, and just see how that goes. To be honest, I know like Paul Barber and Tony Bloom don't like the January transfer window.
Yeah.
There's a good chance that Valentin Barco will be coming back from Sevilla because the idea was that he was supposed to be a first team starter and he's not even getting in the squad half the time.
Yeah.
So I think Brighton will recall him back from his loan. It's a possibility he could go out on loan somewhere else, but I think they might bring him back to bolster up the left back position if Stupian, I know he was sick the last game, but he still might not make the Arsenal game, so they may bring him back in case as a backup. But yeah, generally Paul Barber and Tony Bloom don't like January signings unless they have to. So I don't really see anybody coming in.
It's always it was one of the sticky transfer windows. It's mostly the summer transfer window is the main one, because it's the either players are in middle of European competitions, and the players you want are either cup tied or it's a strange window.
Jonathan, it's the Mudrick window.
It's the Deuce and Vlahovic.
It's the pay 100 million for Mudrick window.
Well, it's the way they say it
is.
It's
ridiculous, silly season.
If you need a player in January, if you're looking for a striker in January, that means that your strikers are either long-term injured or none of them are scoring, and you're desperate for a new striker.
Yeah.
To get your season going or to save you. So you're probably going to pay an extra 20% on top of probably what you could have bought in the summer. And I think that's Brighton's stance of we won't pay over what that player is worth just because it's January. And I think that's generally why they stay clear of it.
Yeah.
And we've youth team options probably wouldn't do anything really for us, but they wouldn't go for a January. We never have. I think that was one of the things that frustrated De Zerbi last season. That was part of the breakup.
Yeah.
Was in January we didn't do any business, and I think that annoyed him a lot.
Yeah. What are Pete? What are your thoughts on Fabian Hurstler halfway through the season now, do you think he's a good fit for Brighton? Do you think it was good, good bringing him on board?
Yeah, I think he's a really good fit.
Yeah.
He's still learning the Premier League, and I think he's slightly catching up to the point of, you play the same tactics week in, week out, you're going to get caught out.
Yeah.
But no, I like him. I think he's good. The right personality, fits right in with Brighton. Players seem to have a lot of respect for him. I think with his age, I think that was a lot of the worry that he wouldn't get the respect. Yeah. I like him. I think, I don't know why, it just seems to be every time you get a new manager that just better and better, nicer and nicer.
Yeah.
And his tactics are slightly different from De Zerbi's as well. I've noticed that we don't hold as much possession. We don't pass the ball at the back, all those short passes back and forth to the keeper, like we did under De Zerbi. So we seem to be a bit more direct at times, kind of plays it up a little bit. We'll keep hold of the ball, and then all of a sudden it'll be balls up front, off we go. He loves that diagonal ball when Matoma's on from the right back right across, and that seems to work most of the time. Seems to catch him out. So I mean, yeah, I think he's good, and I think this will be his learning season. And I think come next season, I think that it will really come along.
Yeah, I have to say that the players like Adingra, Yakuba Minta they got from Newcastle, the really good wing players, and exciting football as well. I have to say, they've kept that kind of DNA, when they're looking for a manager, they want to keep that, it definitely excites fans. Yeah, they're kind of like my second favourite team, to be honest with you, the way you play. Your standout player so far this season for yourself, Pete, for Brighton, who stood out for you,
Carlos Baleba has been my standout. I think Danny Welbeck, if he hadn't been injured, I think would probably be right up there, because I'm like, he's just a fine wine. He's just getting better with age. Yeah. 4 more goals, and it's first time he's ever hit double figures in the Premier League. But no, Carlos Baleba for me, like, given his age, the way he's just bossing some midfielders around, Matt O'Reilly, from what I've seen of him, he's really impressed me. It was just a shame his debut game.
Shocking tackle, wasn't it? Absolutely shocking. Yeah, it's disgusting, I have to say, yeah.
And Matoma, I think last season Matoma didn't have the greatest of seasons. This season, again, you can see that sparks back. I don't know if there's another player in the Premier League that's got a first touch the same as him.
Yeah.
Like, you took that long high ball. Sometimes you just watch him, you just go, he must have double-sided sticky tape on his boot.
yeah, it does sticks to his feet, doesn't it? He gave Ben White that time back in August in that draw a harder time as well. He's very, his first touch, he's away, isn't he? Like, he's just direct, isn't he? It's incredible. Yeah.
But yeah, no, Carlos Baleba for me has been our most standout player.
Yeah. For yourself, Eamonn, from what you've watched at Brighton so far this season, who stood out for you for Brighton this season?
Much the same. They're central midfield, but I've been really, really impressed recently with Lamptey. He was always a guy I thought that had it all, but for some reason, I watched them. I've seen quite a few Brighton games this season. But the player that I think has caught my eye most, obviously Joe Pedro, but Adringa to me is a real find,
Yes, yeah.
He's a real find,
I thought in the African Nations Cup, when Ivory Coast went all the way to the final, and when he was really stood out for me as well, Pete. He's a real find, isn't he, Fries?
Yeah. There's so many players that you could pick from. As you said, Tariq Lamptey, and I think Tariq Lamptey's downfall has always been his height.
Yeah.
I think if you look at some of the games he's played where we've conceded, it was a long ball over his head. He just couldn't get to the ball. And, but I mean, if you put him into that kind of attack on his attacking game, like with the goal that he scored, it's just, you can't beat him. But there's so many players in Brighton at the moment that impress me. I mean, you say you go back to the days when we were the lower leagues, never would have dreamed of these players ever playing for us,
Going back to the game as well on Saturday, Pete, another, going away to the Amex, it's never easy, and the home support you have, it makes it a raucous atmosphere, definitely pre-match and during the match as well. How do you see the game going, hand on heart yourself on Saturday? What do you think the outcome? Draw?
I'd be happy with a draw, I think. I think the way we've been playing is... No, in saying that, I think anytime we play one of the better teams, I think we've done well this season. I think we really tend to struggle when we go down the bottom half of the table. Just can't seem to get it together. 2-0 up against Leicester and 5 minutes was gone. I think it was the same with Wolves. I think a draw would be lucky. I think if we get a draw. You guys have picked up a lot of form. That rough patch right just after the Brighton game, just couldn't get one red card after another, couldn't seem to kind of but you got your form back. You were the only ones in touching distance of Liverpool really now. I think Brighton now will struggle, but we've got the home ground. Next season will be tough when we move the away end. You won't be behind the goal anymore. We'll stick you up by the toilets.
Eamon, going to the Amex is never easy. It's always a tough place to go to for the top teams. And Horsler's hit the ground. I think he's done a pretty good job, being so young as well. How do you feel on Saturday? We've got a lot of quality there. You'd expect, wouldn't you, to come away with a victory?
Well, I just want to just did one of the points Pete made about the away fans. Like, having been on many away trips, with the amount of alcohol I consume, the nearer I am to the toilets, Pete. So like the sooner you can do that, and that's number one. Especially with with the old Jacob's ladder at my age, you know what I mean? But anyway, no, look, it's as simple as this. My only real worry, Arsenal are in form at the moment. They were terrific last night, right? My worry is that the fixtures have been mad around this time. Like, we don't play for 6 days and then we play 3 days.
The gap of days,
Brighton have had 2 more days rest in a congested fixture period, and we've had a bug going through the camp that caused Kai Havertz to miss the game. But look, I'm not into doing these predictions, Jonathan, because if you get these right, you shouldn't have to play the game at all. But I'm just saying, I think we win it because we have to.
100%, Eamon, yeah.
Because we have to. But don't when Pete was talking about Brighton doing well against the teams at the top, Brighton should have come away with 3 points at Anfield. Brighton should have come away with 3 points at Anfield. They could have been 3-0 up.
Yeah.
But look, I think, if all goes well for us, we have a stronger. We've a stronger squad that's more mature than the Brighton squad. I'll put it that way, right? We're normally quite good at responding to at a bit of the old Martin Keown. I put a little number in a little black book and take it a bit of because your man Hurstler. Now I know he was only new. He was a little bit ebullient after that game, and we normally write that down. But the problem is, it's normally Ben White who leads the charge, and he's not around. You
never know the end of transfer.
Ben White is the latter day Martin Keown. But anyway, look.
You'd expect a victory, Eamon.
Well, I'd hope for a victory because we
Yeah.
have to win. I'll leave it at that.
Briefly, it's been a great preview show as always. It's been great having you on, Pete. To wrap it up, with it being we've touched midway now, 19 games now for both ourselves and yourself. If this was an exam paper, what grade would you give Brighton at the midway point of this season, Pete?
B minus.
B minus.
I think it could be better in certain areas. I think little things like I think Lewis Duncan's starting to show his age.
Yeah, he is.
Especially because Brighton plays such a high line. I think ball goes over the top, he's in trouble. And he knows he's in trouble. He's not going to catch.
Yeah.
Martinez or something, he's not going to catch him. They're going to be gone and he's done for.
Yeah.
I think there's elements in Brighton where there's going to have to be a change. It's a young squad, but yeah, there's a lot of learning for us to do. A lot of lessons learned this Christmas.
Yeah.
B minus. Yeah. Still good.
Yeah, it's still good. Yeah. So I think Fabian Horsler would take that. Yeah, not bad for his 19 games for the rookie manager in the Premier League. Yeah. No, it's been great as always, Pete, to have you on. It's been a pleasure. I'd like to wish Brighton the best of luck for the rest of the season. Hopefully the second half of the season, you'll improve on it and you can finish back up in the hopefully European spots. At least the Europa Conference League, maybe even definitely good enough for the Europa League again. So again, Pete, thanks for coming on. I'd like to thank my fellow Gooner guests as always, Eamon Donnelly. Thanks, pal, for coming on.
No problem.
Thanks as always to Martin Stoneville who puts this up and edits it. A great job as always. But until our next preview show, have a great week, lads, and enjoy the match as well. So thanks again. Cheers, lads.
Cheers.